Welcome to WC. If this is your first time, we are so excited to have you. If you're returning to our game, thank you so much for your support and dedication. You are watching the rules video, and this will cover most of the details you need to know to play this game. However, it is abridged, so be sure to read the full rules book as you are responsible for knowing the rules. So, what is WC? WC is a game of dart tag featuring two factions, the survivors and the infected. Survivors are marked with a green bandana worn as an armband, and the infected are marked with a green bandana worn as a headband. The survivors win the game by surviving until the end of the weekend, and the infected win by tagging all the survivors before the weekend is over. When a survivor is tagged by an infected, they will put away their Nerf blaster and become uninfected. Survivors can defend themselves from being tagged by stunning the infected with darts and socks. When an infected is hit by a dart or sock, they are stunned and are out of play for a specific amount of time, which is called their stun timer. Both factions will attempt to complete different story missions during the course of the weekend, which will give them helpful rewards and create a unique story. Now let's cover some of the basic, yet most important rules. Rule number 1, don't be a douchebag. Rule number 1B, be safe. Rule number 2, always follow rule number 1. Rule number 3, have fun and be an adult. And remember, it is just a game. Rule number 4, all players below the age of 18 will be required to turn in a signed permission slip when they sign in. The permission slip must be signed by their legal guardian. If you are watching this video and you haven't done this yet, shame on you. Go back to check in. Rule number 5, always wear your bandana while playing. Rule number 6, players are expected to self-police. Rule number 7, any attempt to push the boundaries of the rules is a violation of rule number 1A and will be dealt with on a case-by-case basis. And lastly, rule number 8, all listed rules are secondary to anything said in person by an admin. The admins reserve the right to change or modify any rules as needed or allow exceptions anytime they see fit. Wait, did the rules just say admin? Admins are the primary game organizers, and we marked with a white bandana. Their job is to run the game and make rulings on issues with gameplay, safety, and tag disputes. In any situation, their rulings are final. Admins may serve as non-player characters or NPCs during gameplay, and they will be distinguished by wearing a green bandana, as well as their white bandana when in character. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to come up and talk to the admins, even while they're serving as an NPC. In addition to admins, there are also moderators who help the admins in whatever way is needed and are marked with a blue bandana. These lovely folks will be able to answer most of your questions and will be seen moderating gameplay and help in running missions. Ask these guys your questions before finding an admin when it is possible. You are probably wondering what you can and cannot bring or use at WC, and first we'll cover what you can and should bring. To play, you must have a survivor band. This is a wristband provided to the players by the admins at check-in and must be worn while the player is participating in gameplay. This wristband marks that the player is a survivor, and when tagged, it is torn off and awarded to the infected player that tagged them. You must also have a bandana. Players must provide their own bright green bandana or a strip of cloth at least 3 fingers width that is visible all around when worn on the head. You can bring all sorts of blasters to defend yourself, however they must meet the following specifications. Any stock blaster that fires foam projectiles may be used. All blasters are to have a bright orange tip. Cosmetic modifications are allowed as long as they maintain a bright orange tip. And lastly, mechanically modified blasters are allowed, provided they meet our blaster modification rules. You should see our rulebook for details. These blasters must be presented to the admins upon checking in for approval. Something else that you're allowed to bring are hammocks. Hammocks may be used by any player, however they must follow these rules. No hammocks may be set up indoors. All hammocks must be hung at a height that is easily visible to all players. And when not in use, the hammock must either be entirely put away or have both ends clipped to one tree, with the entire hammock easily visible and not a tripping hazard. Now we will cover some things that you are not to bring to WSC. First, do not bring ammo. I know, it sounds wrong, but WSC is special. Ammo will be provided by the admins and will include socks, Velcro socks, Boomco straws, and all types of foam projectiles made for commercially available blasters. Do not bring any airsoft, paintball, or other launchers not firing commercially available foam projectiles. Do not bring any melee weapons. They are not allowed unless given out in-game by an admin. Do not bring blowguns. Do not bring remote blasters or dart traps. Do not bring or build traps that cause dangerous conditions. Do not bring anything with wheels. This includes cars, scooters, rollerblades, skateboards, heelys, scooters, bicycles, motorbikes, cars, trucks, go-karts, mopeds, golf carts, shopping carts, hoverboards, etc., other than using it to get here. And lastly, do not bring drugs or alcohol. If you have any of these items, please quietly inform an admin or a moderator right now. Once this video is over, we will pause so that you can turn these into the staff. We will label it with your name and give it back to you at the end of the event. Phew! Now that all that unpleasantness is over, let's talk about the gameplay area. Gameplay is restricted to the campgrounds. Within the campground, there are several areas that can be and cannot be interacted with. The first of these is the safe zones. Safe zones are a 15-foot perimeter marked around a designated area. The only standing safe zone is the bathrooms in the dining hall, which may be used for medical reasons. However, other safe zones may be presented during gameplay by a mod or admin, and note that the survivor players are allowed to fire out of safe zones. Next, let's talk about buffer zones. Unlike safe zones, buffer zones are not marked. They are an understood 5 feet around doors opening to the exterior of a building. Players should slow down within these buffer zones to enter or exit a building without causing injury or damage to the player or property. No object should be placed inside a buffer zone that is intended to hinder player movement. So that covers exterior doors. For interior doors, they must remain open and may not be closed by players. Some may be closed at the beginning of the game per the plot, but once the door is open, it must remain open. The last zone is the no play zone. No play, stuns, or tags may occur in no play zones for the safety of everyone. The no play zones are the lagoons or sewer ponds, camp staff housing, various maintenance closets, and any area designated with yellow tape. Also out of play are vehicles. No means of wheeled transportation is allowed in-game unless it is required for a physical handicap. No hiding in or under vehicles. Basically, once the game is started, you should stay away from the vehicles. If you do need to stash something, be quick about it. You are not safe, and we will be monitoring the people for abusing this activity. Now for something completely different. There are bunk beds and mattresses everywhere within the campground. Bunk beds may not be moved at all for safety reasons. However, the mattresses may be moved off the bunk beds, but remain in the room they are originally from. There shouldn't be many, but there are a few non-players on the campground. These are the camp staff and people who live on the camp. We ask that you are mindful and respectful to them. And lastly, I feel I shouldn't have to say this, but this is WC, so do not climb on the buildings on campus. I know it seems like a cool idea, but no, please stay down. Now let's talk about some gameplay details. Ricochets are allowed at WC. Survivors may bounce rounds off of walls, ceilings, players, shields, swords, daggers, and other nearby objects. If a survivor manages to hit multiple infected with one shot before it hits the ground, then all infected that are hit are stunned. Projectiles are considered dead once they hit the ground. There are locked doors. These doors are either off limits and marked with yellow tape, or must be unlocked in-game somehow before players of either faction can open them. Once unlocked, the door functions like a normal door. This game contains huge amounts of in-game items and props. Some of these items will need to be used to complete objectives. Others are simply there to add to the atmosphere. If you're wondering if the item is one you need, check to see if there's a label that says what it is. For example, if a mission sent you to get a clock, you would most likely find the item with a label that reads clock. However, some items may be too small to label, so use your best judgment when grabbing items. If you grab an item on accident that you find out was not what you needed or someone else's objective, or you've been tagged and still hold the survivor objective, do not fear. There are drop locations called mailboxes in each stronghold and in the dining hall. You can leave the items there and a mod will return it to the proper location. That said, do not tamper with these mailboxes. Infected players should not look in the survivor mailbox and vice versa. Neither faction should look in the mailbox in the dining hall. There is some information out there specific to each faction. Let's cover the survivor faction first. Survivors can stun infected by throwing ammo and may throw multiple darts and socks at once. Survivor players are encouraged to pick up their darts and socks and other gear after combat with infected. However, survivor players are not safe from being tagged while doing so. Darts, socks, and gear that is left abandoned will be collected by mods and admins and redistributed through in-game mechanics. Any ammo found out and about, or given as rewards, is considered fair game. Now for the infected. Infected players are allowed 1 tag per life. In other words, no multi-tags. Infected have a stun time that will start at 10 minutes and may be changed throughout the week at the admin's discretion. When stunned, the infected should do the following: put their hands up, quickly move away from the survivor players, and move their bandana from their head to their neck. Stunned infected are not to interfere with gameplay until their stun timer is up. This includes blocking darts or socks, continuing to run at survivor players, notifying other infected of survivor's presence, or game info. Stunned infected are not to stalk survivor players. Stunned infected players must walk away from any survivor players they see, including leaving buildings. Infected players must respawn outside when their stun timers are up. Just in case you have spaced out, here it is again. Infected players cannot respawn in buildings. A stunned infected may be hit again and have their timer reset. Sorry ladies, you gotta restart your stun timer. And lastly, tackling to get a tag will not be tolerated and is a removable offense, despite how fun it may seem. The last thing in this video covers medical and emergencies. All players should have signed the medical waiver of liability at check-in. If you haven't, go back to check-in and do that as soon as this video is over. If you have emergency medication or treatments, keep them on you at all times. If your medications are required to be kept in certain conditions, please notify admins and they will work with you to make the necessary accommodations. And lastly, in case of an emergency medical situation during gameplay, call an admin. Stop all gameplay in the vicinity and clear the area while the situation is treated and resolved. If there's no mod or admin nearby, have a player find and inform a mod or admin. And lastly, do not insert yourself into the situation. That concludes the summation of our rules. Thank you for your attention and have the safest and funnest WC ever. This event wouldn't have happened without you, and we love you all so much.